Bonjour et bienvenue à notre réunion de midi en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le lundi 15 novembre. J'ai pas mal d'annonces à vous faire aujourd'hui. So let me start with an update to President von der Leyen's agenda for today. This afternoon, the President will visit the headquarters of the Dutch company Advanced Semiconductor Materials Lithography, also known as ASML, in Eindhoven, the Netherlands, together with Prime Minister Mark Rutte, Executive Vice President Margrethe Vestager, and Commissioner Thierry Breton. They will meet Peter Venink, President and CEO of ASML, as well as other managers of the company, to discuss the current challenges and opportunities to the semiconductor industry. You will find more information in our daily news. Let me update you on the latest developments regarding the situation on the border with Belarus. As requested by President von der Leyen, Vice President Margaritis Schinas is continuing his visits to partner countries. Today, he is in Baghdad, his third stop on a tour of partner countries key to putting a stop to the instrumentalization of migrants by the Belarusian regime. In Baghdad, he will meet the Prime Minister of Iraq in the presence of the Interior Minister. He will also meet with the Foreign Affairs Minister. In this context, we welcome the announcement by the Iraqi authorities that a first repatriation flight of Iraqi citizens from Belarus is planned for this Thursday. Today's visit follows constructive visits to Dubai and Beirut last week, where the Vice President welcomed the strong engagement of the United Emirates and Lebanese authorities to tackle this issue jointly. In the meantime, we understand that both the UAE and the Lebanese authorities, as well as the Turkish Civil Aviation Authority, have announced restrictive measures for air travel to Minsk for specific nationalities, and we are following up on these announcements. We welcome that Syrian airline Cam Wings Airways has also announced a suspension of flights to Minsk. We also take note of the announcement by Belavia that it will implement the decision by the United Emirates authorities. The issue of sanctions is, of course, on the agenda of today's FAC, and the HRVP, Josep Borrell, will certainly report on this at his press conference later this afternoon. Now, when it comes to airlines, the Commission is collecting evidence to determine whether specific airlines other than Belavia should be sanctioned, and we are, of course, also in touch with ICAO. Furthermore, as announced last week by President von der Leyen, the Commission is working on a legislative proposal to enable the EU to sanction airlines involved in human trafficking. And let me remind you that on humanitarian assistance, the Commission remains in close contact with the UNHCR and the IOM, as well as the Red Cross, and stands ready to support them as necessary. This point was stressed last week by the President in her statement. Puis, deux réunions se tiennent aujourd'hui de l'autre côté de la rue. D'abord, le haut représentant Josep Borrell préside aujourd'hui un conseil des affaires étrangères. Les commissaires Oliver Várhelyi et Jutta Urpilainen y représentent la Commission. Les ministres discutent des questions d'actualité et notamment des développements liés à la Biélorussie. Ils feront également le point sur l'évolution récente de la situation dans les Balkans occidentaux et au Sahel. Le Conseil sera suivi d'une réunion des ministres des Affaires étrangères des pays du partenariat oriental, présidée elle aussi par le haut représentant. Et ce soir, le haut représentant présentera le projet de boussole stratégique de l'Union européenne lors d'une session conjointe des ministres des Affaires étrangères et de la Défense. Une conférence de presse avec le haut représentant est prévue aujourd'hui vers 17 h. Par ailleurs, un conseil agriculture et pêche a également lieu aujourd'hui, auquel participent les commissaires Stella Kyriakides et Virginijus Sinkevicius pour le compte de la Commission. Les ministres discuteront notamment de la situation du marché des produits agricoles et de l'avancée des consultations annuelles avec le Royaume-Uni sur les quotas de pêche pour 2022. Ils approuveront aussi des conclusions sur la stratégie de l'UE pour les forêts à l'horizon 2030. Une conférence de presse avec le commissaire Sinkevičius est prévue vers 19h ce soir. Et comme d'habitude, je vous remercie donc de réserver vos questions liées aux affaires étrangères et à l'agriculture à ces conférences de presse respectives qui auront lieu plus tard aujourd'hui. Enfin, veuillez noter que le point de presse du vice-président Maroš Šefčovič après sa rencontre avec le ministre suisse des Affaires étrangères Ignacio Cassis aura lieu après ce midday briefing aux alentours, nous pensons, de 13h30, horaire à confirmer. Voilà qui clôture mes annonces pour aujourd'hui. Avec ceci, nous pouvons passer à vos questions. Rémo, je crois, si je te reconnais derrière ton masque.
Oui, bonjour Eric. J'ai bien compris que le point de presse de M. Šefčovič va prendre place tout à l'heure, mais je voulais demander, est-ce que tu peux nous donner déjà un peu une impression générale sur le rendez-vous entre M. Cassis et M. Šefčovič? Comment ça s'est passé? Est-ce que vous êtes arrivé à une percée sur les nombreux blocages voilà, dans les dossiers suisses? Merci.
Rémo, comme tu le sais, il est d'usage que lorsqu'un vice-président de la Commission va s'exprimer en conférence de presse précisément sur le résultat d'une réunion qu'il vient d'avoir, nous, ici, ne faisons rigoureusement aucun commentaire, donc je te demanderai, s'il te plaît, d'adresser ta question au vice-président qui n'y manquera certainement pas d'y répondre. Nous allons passer à d'autres sujets. Je passe la parole à Mose. Mose, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Eric. I would like to connect to the said in the beginning an announcement about, let's say, the migration crisis at the border between EU and Belarus. And you referred to also the humanitarian issue and your context with World Health Organization. I know that they sent a team, let's say, to the border, to inside Lithuania, to assess the medical needs. And according to the report, about half of all people they met, all migrants, in Lithuania, is in need of medical assistance. But obviously they were not allowed to visit the Polish side of the border, and neither, let's say, inside Belarus itself, where we know there are thousands of migrants stranded. So my question is, when do you think that this urgent, say, humanitarian, including medical assistance, can be provided to the migrants there on both sides of the borders? Thank you.
Thank you, Mose. I think I have been very clear. We are in touch with all the international organizations that may have a role to play in dealing with the humanitarian situation and the health situation in the region, and we stand ready to assist them. We ourselves cannot provide the assistance. We have to go through them in order to do so, and that is what we stand ready to do. You have a follow-up?
Not this time, okay. I'm fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the situation at the border between Belarus and the EU? Katerina.
Yes, hi, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Right. Yes, Katerina of Czech Daily Hospodářské noviny here in Brussels. I have a question of vaccination and more specifically the decision by the Austrian government made over the weekend on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and also on the applicability of lockdown. So I don't know if we shall wait for... shall I ask you directly, Eric, on this?
Thank you, Katerina. Well, I think it's your lucky day because, unless I'm mistaken, there were no other questions on Belarus. So we will close that chapter and move indeed to the issue of vaccines and vaccination. I don't know if, Stefan, you got the question. If so, please come to the podium. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Katharina. With regards to the steps on a lockdown as has been announced by the Austrian authorities, the first thing I would like to stress is, and you know that fact, is the fact that lockdowns are a national decisions taken at the level of the member states. Now, the Commission obviously works with member states at different levels, including through the Health Security Committee, to monitor the epidemiological situation and in the different member states, and to ensure a good exchange of information between the member states to have a coherent, coordinated approach. The Commission also continues to offer support if needed in case the epidemiological situation escalates, and we've had the opportunity here in the press room to already refer a couple of times to the support that has been granted through the EU Civil Protection Mechanism. I'd like also to add that the Commissioner Kyriakides stressed that with over 75% of the adult population fully vaccinated, the EU has one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. That's a significant achievement that is very important to underline. But obviously with cases increasing in almost all member states, the situation remains fragile and the vaccination coverage must continue across the general publication. I'd like to finally draw your attention also to the risk assessment that was published by the ECDC on the 30th of September, which was extremely clear on this, which indicated that in those countries where the vaccination rates are below 75%, lifting health restrictions would lead to a significant surge in cases from September to November. So this was indicated by ECDC in their risk assessment on the 30th of September. So the message remains clear: get vaccinated, maintain masks and social distance. Vaccination is necessary in our fight against this virus, but indeed not sufficient. We also need to bear in mind the different non-pharmaceutical measures and interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Katerina, you have a follow-up.
Of the decision of the Austrian government not to consider people vaccinated with the vaccine Janssen of Johnson & Johnson as vaccinated as of January next year, which I don't know what's the situation in other member states, but at least in the Czech Republic, so to say the country I know best, every third dose now distributed and applied in the Czech Republic is indeed Janssen. So what do you have to say to this decision of Austrian government that they decided not to consider people vaccinated with one of the vaccine registered within EMA or allowed by EMA agency as an equal dose or equal vaccine as the others? And my second question to it, the Austrian government also said, well, you can get the booster if you want to travel to Austria, for example, for winter holidays, for skiing in January, February, etc. But according to the rules in most of the member states, you can only get booster not sooner than 5-6 months after you were vaccinated for the first or second time in the case of RMNA vaccine. So what can the Commission say and do here? Can you somehow talk to the government and at least present some guidelines so that you can ease the situation of people who have their prepaid vacation in Austria for February and March but cannot get the booster now and will be considered as non-vaccinated despite the fact that they have been vaccinated with Janssen vaccine? Thank you.
So thank you very much, Katerina. We're not aware of the point that you have made regarding an announcement by the Austrian authorities related to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So this is something that we will have to check and come back to you on, but it's not something that we are aware of. But just to be clear, the vaccine by Johnson & Johnson is one that is covered by the conditional authorization by EMA, and therefore which is included in the EU DCC, in the EU Digital COVID Certificate. So if you are vaccinated with this vaccine, you can, under the terms of the current regulation, travel across Europe. Secondly, we have answered your second question, I think, a great number of times already last week when it comes to the announcements made by various governments on the validity, the length of validity or not of certain vaccines. And we have said that we are, of course, looking into this. And for the moment, we have nothing further to add than to say that, of course, we are acutely aware of the issues and are working on this in the context, of course, of the validity of the EU digital COVID certificate when it comes to traveling between EU member states. Katerina, I will give you one last follow-up. No. Okay, other questions on the health situation in the EU? I have two hands raised. Please only keep your hand raised if your question relates to the situation related to the pandemic. Sanda.
Thank you. I realize my internet connection may be very bad, so I hope you can hear me right. And I apologize for not having attended all the midday briefings last week, so maybe my question was covered extensively. But there was this notion after the first and second wave that borders should remain open and countries should at least inform each other about measures being taken. Now, with all measures being re-evaluated across the member states, do you feel that this information system is working, and to what extent do you worry that border restrictions may be applied a little bit further down in for wave? And to what extent can you preempt this by talking to member states or whatever? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is more a question for Adalbert, so I'll call him to the podium. Thank you very much, Stéphane. But look, in general, whilst Adalbert is coming up to the stage, we are, of course, monitoring the situation very closely. There are groups within the Council that discuss these issues on a regular basis. Our priority remains, as it has always remained, to enable circulation within the EU member states for those who comply with the conditions that are set in the regulation on the EU Digital COVID Certificate. Of course, this regulation has also always included a, if I can call, safeguard clause for member states to be able to take specific measures if the situation warranted, because obviously the pandemic is something that can continue to evolve in unforeseen ways, and it is important that member state authorities are able to react. But as you correctly point out, always informing their partners in the European Union as early as possible. Adalbert, I don't know if you have anything to add to this.
Perhaps just one little thing about kind of more looking into the future. It is not a secret that we are also working on updates to our recommendations or to the EU recommendations when it comes to the internal and external dimension of travel, so free movement within the EU and travel into the EU. That's in conformity with the request by the European Council. So stay tuned on that. There will be also news on that.
Okay, thank you. Eric, you have a question on this.
Bonjour. En effet, j'ai une question sur les fameux troisième vaccinations, le so-called booster en bon français, ou en allemand aussi d'ailleurs. Le chef de l'OMS, M. Ghebreyesus, s'est exprimé contre la généralisation des boosters en Europe. Quelle est votre réponse? Vous suivez toujours le OMS, d'après ce que j'ai compris, donc je me pose cette question. Et deuxièmement, comment savez-vous que le booster va effectivement marcher cette fois-ci? Est-ce qu'il y a des études? Il va marcher pour combien de temps? Pour 4 mois, pour 6 mois, pour combien de temps? Et dernière question, en Grèce, on parle déjà d'une quatrième vaccination. Qu'en pensez-vous? Merci.
Merci Eric pour toutes les questions, mais là aussi je crois que nous couvrons de nouveau du terrain qui a été couvert à de très nombreuses reprises. Nous avons, pour toutes ces questions, une agence, l'Agence européenne du médicament, qui a émis des recommandations en ce qui concerne les boosters. Donc la Commission, bien entendu, suit les avis de l'Agence européenne du médicament. Je ne vais pas te rappeler ici quels sont tous les détails de cette recommandation. Je t'invite à aller les voir et c'est pour l'instant la position de l'Union européenne sur ce sujet, sachant qu'au bout du compte, bien entendu, les décisions en ce qui concerne les boosters relèvent de l'autorité, de la compétence des États membres et nous n'allons pas faire de commentaires sur des avis qui sont émis par d'autres organisations de santé que l'Agence européenne du médicament. Eric, tu as une question de suivi?
Mais l'OMS, c'est quand même une référence internationale. Alors, qu'est-ce que vous répondez à M. Ghebreyesus qui s'est exprimé expressément contre la généralisation des boosters en Europe? Merci.
Merci Eric. Je viens de te répondre. D'abord, nous ne faisons jamais de commentaires sur les commentaires faits par des tierces personnes. Et encore une fois, la réponse de l'Union européenne, si réponse il devait y avoir, c'est l'avis que l'Agence européenne du médicament a émis sur les boosters il y a déjà de cela un grand nombre de semaines. Eric, je vois que tu as encore ta main levée.
Non.
Ah, d'accord, merci. Tommaso, une question sur la santé.
Oui, bonjour, merci de me donner la parole. Thomas Cronos, c'est sur la production de vaccins en Afrique, parce que vous avez un plan pour...
Nous t'avons perdu, Tommaso. Essaye de nouveau. Non, désolé, il y a un problème avec ta connexion. Nous te voyons, mais nous ne t'entendons plus. Donc, je te propose de poser ta question par écrit en bilatéral et nous reviendrons vers toi. Katerina, I see you still have your hand raised. I don't know if this is a mistake or if you have another question.
Yes, I've just realized one thing because my connection it's a bit rusty too as well. Now, when you said that if you have COVID pass or COVID certificate, obviously you can travel within the EU member states, which is correct. But what the Austrian government is saying, and they've decided on it over the weekend, they're saying you cannot book a hotel room in Austria, and you cannot go skiing. You cannot buy the skiing pass if you are vaccinated with Janssen vaccine. So the question is not this mere trespassing the frontiers, but is also about your liberty, if you like, to do what you are intend to do in Austria. So that was my question. What would you comment on that?
Look, once again, indeed, the responsibilities at this level are dissociated, if you so wish. There is indeed a very specific regulation that concerns the freedom to travel within Europe. But the European Union does not have the competence to determine within a member state what are the national health safety measures that the member state authorities want to take. This is their prerogative. And indeed, it is a complex situation because, as you correctly point out, you may find yourself in a situation where you are able to travel to a country, but if the member state has then decided to take a certain number of restrictive measures, you will have to abide by these. Now, this is an issue that we are keenly aware of course. This has been discussed here in the press room extensively last week, but we must remember that the EU's responsibility is on allowing the passing of borders. And this is what we are focusing on. But of course, we are aware of the issues related to the use of national certificates in the countries to enable or not certain activities. Okay, I see no further questions for us today on health-related issues. Are there other issues for us? That is not the case. Thank you very much. We will see you tomorrow.